On behalf of USG, a warm welcome here from the Coke Fabriek in Amsterdam on Marketing Live 2012. With me is Derk Hendriksen. Derk, a warm welcome to you. Man, you've got a long title. Senior Director, Portfolio Strategy and Commercialization, Global Sparkling Brands.
That's right.
Can you tell it in plain English what that means?
Well, it basically looks at, for the Coca Cola company, I look after all the strategy parts and the executional parts of our sparkling brand portfolio, which includes Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Fanta and Sprite, anything that contains bubbles.
I like this one.
Good.
Is it the same as Diet Coke?
Well, it's not quite the same. It's in the same family, but it's a brand for which we're using some different sweetener systems around the world because of different legislations.
It tastes more creamy kind of, but is that maybe because of the packaging?
It could be. This packaging might give a little bit of a different reaction with the product, but it's definitely it's a similar formula. Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah, I don't have one because it's closed. So if anybody's out there with an opener, then I would love a Diet Coke. Otherwise, I'll wait for 10 minutes. You sound American, but you're not, right?
No, I'm Dutch. I left Holland about 13 years ago. I've been with Coca Cola company for 15 years. Started here in Holland, then went to Belgium, to France later on. Then worked for a European headquarters for a couple of years, and 5 years ago I moved to headquarters in Atlanta, so I've been there now. I'm well in my 5th year.
And how's the States to live in?
Oh, it's great. I have a very young family, 2 and a 4-year-old, and Atlanta is a great city to raise a family, and it's not as hectic as Paris or Amsterdam, where I spent most of my life. So it's really nice.
And
thanks for asking.
Are you here often, or?
No, I get here to see my family occasionally, but much less frequent for business. But yeah, it's a global role, so.
And the internet is there, so.
Exactly, and we do a lot of Skype, and we leverage technology to the best of our abilities.
Nice bridge to the theme of your presentation. I missed it. But
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and that's what I heard a couple of minutes ago. That it was a very good presentation. Why?
Thanks. Why? Ask them.
Don't be modest, you're American.
No, you know what? I think that I'm obviously not American yet. I still have my Dutch passport.
Okay.
No, I think that obviously, I mean, we're talking about a big global brand here that, that people generally like to hear stories about and how we do things. But what I try to do is humanize my stories as much as I can about those brands. So we talked about global brands in a social world. And I was asked to tell about how Coke is approaching this new social media environment that we're all operating in. And I tried to tell those stories in a way that was insight. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
It was insight driven, and tell stories of humanity, and they resonate with people. And if you get them in the heart and in the guts, just like in advertising and marketing, then all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to tell the more boring part of your story in a compelling way as well.
What's the boring side of the
story? Well, it's really four steps, and I made them up. This is really not really a Coca Cola company kind of positioning.
You really made them up yourself. So it's not a corporate philosophy.
No, what I said to the guys when I started is, listen, social media and dealing with social media is not a department. It's a mindset. Just like in my mind, innovation in an organization should not be a department. It needs to be a mindset. That mindset I try to apply in my daily life. So when I think about, as a general marketer, I'm not a social media specialist, but if as a general marketer and a business guy who wants to sell cases of Coke, ultimately, I think about social media, I think about it through as holistic a lens as possible. And so that was my point of view on it. And I see 4 things. What I told them today, and I think that resonated, is 1, you either lead from the front foot, or you'll get into oblivion. You'll die. The world is developing so quickly. If you don't learn how to operate in a world that is social, with confidence and through a lens of opportunity instead of a lens of fear, then you're really not going to succeed.
And later on, step 2, 3, and 4. But this step 1 already, is this a step that all the marketeers already have taken? Because if I'm looking not on a global level maybe, but on a national level here in the Netherlands, I think there's a lot of fear
Oh, definitely. The questions, some of the questions we got today were fear-based.
Yeah?
We had a presentation about Lady Gaga. The first question that comes up was, has Lady Gaga done something wrong, and did anything go wrong in her open approach to issues and the world, etc.? First question, out of an audience of professional marketers. I would have expected 15 questions about how cool is that and how can I do that too? No, the first question was, has she done anything wrong? And I think that that there's a lot to learn.
There are even marketeers that think that social media is a hype.
Absolutely, and even us and even me. I didn't tell a story here about the Coca Cola company because I think we're so great. I actually ended my presentation saying, you know, we need to learn to behave as a 126-year-old startup because the journey has just begun. And we have a lot to learn.
First mention the next steps, because a lot of questions, but first otherwise we forget the 4 steps.
Not a problem. Yeah, so the second step really is, you know, once you've figured out how social media works and how you deal with that, the second step is making sure that you have a purposeful positioning for your brand and then let that brand go. Purposeful positioning.
Let that brand go.
Let that brand go.
Holy shit.
I call it put it in the hands of the people who care about it.
And in the hearts of the people.
And the hearts, obviously. But purposeful positioning is, you know, having a clear brand idea, or I would actually say a brand ideal instead of a brand idea. So having something that goes above functional, emotional positioning.
It's what the fast movers this morning, the Procter & Gamble, Unilever, they say it has to have some idealism in it, a purpose.
Yeah, so I talked a lot, and that's where the tearjerkers come in. That's where I talked about happiness around Coke and how happiness is a source of well-being and how we can tell really emotional stories about how Coke as a brand, not necessarily Coke as a product, but Coke as a brand, can contribute to making people and communities feel happier about themselves and together. And
it also has something cliche. If I listen to those like corporate mission statements, you know, we want to make the world a better place and make everybody happy, peace. Yeah, it's like it's a strategy, you know. And of course, but you want to sell cases of Coca Cola. How honest is that philosophy? So how real is the things you are saying now, how real is it within Coca Cola?
So that is extremely real in the sense that it is the core of our, what we call our Vision 2020. So our mission statement is written around it. Obviously the brand on the bottle is the brand on the top of the building in our case. So we need to live and abide by the mission, the mission that we've set out for ourselves. I think we still have a long way to go as an organization to communicate and talk about what we're doing. There's a lot that people don't know about us. What we do. In the future, they know everything, right? Yeah, what we do about communities, what we do about women empowerment, what we do about water safety, all of that. There's so much going on.
So many questions. Is that the role of brands in the future? Because in the old days, it was like we make the best Coke. And it's the best, how do you call it, sparkling brand there is, and it is good for your health and thirst and blah, blah, blah. But now it seems like every brand has a responsibility towards community, towards empowerment of women, to healthy people. Man, it sounds like an NGO.
Well, you know, we're a person. You know, we're just a collective entity of almost 1 million people around the world called the Coca Cola system, including all our bottlers. So,
really?
Yeah, it's about I think it's around 800,000, so not quite 1 million, but it's a big organization. So, as a result, we're an accumulation of the people who we are and the people who we influence. So, yes, we have a responsibility. Absolutely. You know, we cannot just capitalize on today and not think about the next generation. So, and I think that people know that. Increasingly, people will take their purchase decisions based on many more criteria than just how good does it taste and what's the price. And as we evolve that knowledge of how to build our commitments, our actions, and ultimately our stories, I think that we will come out winning. Absolutely.
We still missed 2 steps. We had step 2, planning for the unknown was the third.
Yeah, the third one is planning for the unknown, which is that, you know, if you have a great positioning for your brand or your company, and you allow others, whether it's, you know, close to home like your agencies or not so close to home, people out there who make their own stories and videos and whatever.
And you say, take it away.
Exactly. You don't take it away, then, you know, stuff is going to happen. So how do you plan for that? And how do you do that in a way that is cost efficient and effective at the same time? So we have a model that we call owned, earned, shared, and paid. You might have heard of it.
Yeah,
but we combined it and we
I'm really critical about that model because I do think that in the social environment a lot of classical advertisers still use it as a paid media platform instead of really try to earn the media.
And that's where we absolutely we're trying to build a lot of to put a lot of the content generation models that we now have completely on its head. We really start with making sure, of course, we go in with the purposeful positioning, but then we let people generate their own content and we leverage that content to then tell the stories. Instead of making up a, $1 million TV ad and then PRing the heck out of it on Facebook. That's like ancient. We did that 10 years ago. So I think that we're learning that lesson quickly. We're reapplying the practices on some of our flagship brands like Coke and Fanta to our smaller brands quickly. But in the process we make some mistakes every now and then. But
because how powerful are you? That how many fans do you guys have on Facebook?
43 million, close to 43 million. But that is a fairly short-sighted way of talking about how powerful we are.
Yeah. Because how valuable is a click like, hey, I like Coca-Cola?
Well, it's a like. No, it's the +1. How many people do you reach through the 43 million fans that you have if you look at their friends? Because they talk. They talk to us and we talk to them, but they also talk to our friends and these friends see that.
We cover,
we cover 85-90% of the Facebook population through our fan base +1, which is close to 1 billion people, which is close to 20% of the world's population.
What's the essence of your story, not in 2020, but now? What's the essence of the story of Coca-Cola now? Because I'm an outsider, I don't know.
Of the Coca-Cola company or the brand of the way
brand essence. No, the brand. What are the stories based upon? Because all those millions of people are making stories. They talk about the brand. They do. Yeah. What's the essence of that?
Well, so I told that earlier today to the guys. I looked after all my life at Coke for 15 years. I've looked after what we call the Coca-Cola trademark, which has 3 big brands under it: Coke, Coke Zero, and Diet Coke. They're all under an umbrella of optimism, but they express optimism in a different way. Coke talks about happiness. Coke Zero talks about possibility, and Diet Coke talks about lightness, a lighter attitude to life. And they're all optimistic stories, so that's the essence, but they express that in a slightly different way, in a very complementary way.
What do you do with product critic people? Like they say, but Coca is too much sugar and it's bad for children to drink, and stuff like that.
Well, we have a dialogue with them. We obviously disagree with those generalizations, and we have a dialogue with them, either direct, like we're having it here, face to face, or we use social media like Twitter or Facebook to have that dialogue as well. And I think the more people learn about what's in our products and what the benefits are, the easier that conversation is becoming.
So also in that, if it's about criticism and stuff like that, it's the same channel where you communicate through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the trust that you build over time by having that dialogue, debunking some of the myths that are out there, listening to people who have something to say about whatever you do, whether it's your product or your behaviors or whatever. We are fundamentally a great organization, and we have great brands who really have their heart in the right place, if to use a Dutch expression.
Yeah. Is that a Dutch expression? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Well, maybe it's not, but well, whatever.
We missed the fourth.
Yeah, the fourth one is really about keeping it real. Because we can do all kinds of fancy stuff and cool stuff with social media, and my idea about marketing is that we need to make sure that we're not seen as the communication guys. That to me is marketing with a lowercase m. To me, marketing with a capital M is about business marketing. Ultimately, it's about driving the top line and the bottom line on the long term as well as the short term. The long term implies doing the right thing, sustainability, making sure that everything you do is responsible, etc.
Is your commercial, is there a tension between earning the money and the business case on the short term and the whole story about idealism and making a better
less
world?
and less. Yeah, there was a couple of years ago. There definitely was, and sometimes there still is. But I think that at least internally in our organization, there is a very, very strong drive on doing the right thing and not compromising the long term through the short term, because ultimately there becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where the long term no longer is sustainable. Because you're compromising the short term over and over again.
2 issues to conclude. One is how is it, I think it's rather complex, we'll try to get it, how is it organized, the whole marketing everything that you do in marketing, how is it organized within the Coca-Cola company? Is that to be explained in a minute?
Well, I can give you the headline. To me, it's a global approach where we have where we have very strong local teams in each of our markets that really know their consumers, their customers, their stakeholders, who know who to deal with to drive our business on the short and the long term. And then we have global and pan regional marketing teams to support that with strategy, with capability, and in some cases with truly global programs like the Live Olympic program. Move to the
and how are disciplines organized, like direct marketing and PR and social and?
Well, you know, that's a really good question, and the straightforward answer is we're a large marketing organization, so we have kind of silos for each of those disciplines, but the silo is obviously usually not a good thing. It builds depth in knowledge, but it does not necessarily mean that everybody works together and integrates, and that is going to be our next big battle. Have everybody work together in an entrepreneurial way so that we can be quick in this environment that is, as we call, liquid and linked.
Do we need new talents also, new expertise?
We do, but at the same time we need people who really understand our business very well. So I think that everybody needs to have a component of speciality to it, but also understand how our business works holistically so that everybody can work comfortably in both areas. I call it the T model of, you know, strong depth of subject matter expertise, but topped off with a reasonable understanding of how our business works, so that facilitates collaboration and integration between functions, because ultimately it is only working if you do it together. I had a boss once who said a complete individual doesn't exist. The only complete individual that exists is a complete idiot. So, you know, I have always loved that, and I think that collaboration in a proactive way is really the way forward.
If we're looking at the last question, global brands in a social world was the title. What's the effect on what people call classic advertising, the 30-second spots, the focus on doing campaigns instead of continuous communication? What is the main effect, if we're looking at Coca-Cola company, on all these developments on classic advertising?
Well, definitely there is a basis of always on that we're applying. So our idea and ideals will be there every day, 365 days a year, with wherever people lead their lives. But obviously we amplify that with campaigns to be topically relevant. So we have the Euro 2012 coming up, and soon we have the Olympics coming up, and obviously we're not going to lose 2 or 3 months of excitement around that to activate retail, etc., etc. But think of it as an amplification of something that is always on.
It's not cannibalized. It's not like that you do less TV, radio, spots, those kind of stuff instead of social. It's end-end. It's
end-end, and the way we develop the stories that we tell on TV is increasingly driven by what consumers do rather than what our advertising agencies do.
European Championship, who's going to win?
I think Holland has a good chance. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Derk Hendriksen from Coca Cola. Thank you very much. And thanks for watching on behalf of USG here from Marketing Live 2012. Bye.